And maybe it's just a matter of I need to search through Zoom and YouTube's settings a bit to figure it out. But anyway, let's just test out one thing at a time here. Okay. So here, and maybe it's just a matter of I need to.
Well, there it is again. There's your loop.
That's because there's a serious delay. All right, here's the link for the YouTube stream. And we might end up with more loop. We could end up with some really fun loopy stuff. So you can see there what an audience would see, which informs me that I should close my box a little bit. And so here we go. I figured we had enough sample size there. It seemed like it looked pretty good on YouTube there. Yeah.
I'm so confused. I am so confused.
What are you confused by?
I am confused by hold on. Let me hit play on my computer. Yeah, something it didn't go right because it almost started multiple times.
That's because people had their microphones on. So Zoom was picking up the music coming out of your speakers and therefore streaming that as well.
Our microphones were muted though. Both Jeremiah and I were muted.
I mean, let's try it again.
Oh God.
Everyone mute. So on the stream, it should be perfectly fine. So Zoom was picking up the music coming out of your speakers and therefore streaming that as well. This is surreal.
Our microphones were muted though. Both Jeremiah and I were muted.
So this is actually not a delay. This is me. I had paused my YouTube stream. So it's not exactly where it was. Here we go. Sounds good to me. I'm not sure what you're signing, Maggie.
Okay. It was good on our side when I went back to look at it. However, we're still, is there a way to pin it so that we are not seen?
I mean, just turn off people's cameras.
Right, but when your camera was off, there was still a box up in the corner that said Joe Gels. In the first hot mess that we just did.
Let me see. Because for the most part, in the first hot mess, I had forgotten to turn my camera off for most of it.
Right, and I saw you, and I saw myself in the second iteration. But when you did go cameras off, there was a, it was just black screen.
Okay. I didn't see that, so give me a second. Let's see what we can do there. All right, let's mute mics and test something out. So that time with all of our cameras off, I did not see on the YouTube stream a box.
I saw it on the Zoom screen. I don't think I saw it.
What we see on the Zoom screen will not matter.
Right. Yeah.
Joe, you're on camera for a little bit.
That's because I didn't turn my camera off right away.
Okay. Okay. I mean, we know that this works.
Mm-hmm. Right. So now it's just
My question is there something that potentially works better? Jeremiah, do you, the only other video streaming thing that I know about is Vimeo, and I know like this much.
I know that the other organization I work for has used it. I haven't played with it myself. We had a consultant who came in and did it for us. I don't know how it would be any different. I think that in terms of the technology, it's all pretty much the same.
and I don't know how to stream it to Vimeo because this thing comes with, hey, you can stream this to Facebook and YouTube, and I would have to go through additional steps to get it to Vimeo.
Okay.
So I just did a quick search, and it does look like you can't do it through Vimeo. It's a little bit more work.
Okay.
There's some places that could go wrong.
The other issue is, I imagine for safety reasons, having all of these videos downloaded on devices ahead of time, instead of just going from your Google Drive, just making sure that, like, because whoever knows, Google Drive could act up that night.
Oh, yeah.
Is your computer / your Wi-Fi fast enough?
Typically, yes. I haven't. So, like, what I do is I download everything off of Google Drive for my shows and just throw it into Apple Music like this. So I create this like little playlist, and then when I click on them, they pop up and I play them. I have a whole procedure around it.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm never getting my video streaming at the same time that I am streaming from my device, if that makes sense.
But if something were to go wrong, I guess we would need to have our playlist. Like, are you able to share the playlist then, that we would have it exactly in the same order?
I don't know how to do that, but I could try and figure it out.
How many different videos do you guys anticipate having?
I can give you, well, that's a great question, Jeremiah. That's a question I've been asking for months. Okay. Because it's hefty. It is a hefty.
Okay. Like more than a few.
More than a few. Yeah, it's going to be basically every group that is performing. And you would think that they would have told me if and when they are performing. Let's see.
So
why don't live show? They don't tell us until,
So are any of them performing live, or is it all recorded?
Well, so none of the groups are performing live.
So why don't we just make one long video and stitch it all together? Click play.
Because
sorry,
no, it's fine. They were thinking about the Friends of the Arts, the parents / Mr. Pitts wanted some kind of live portion to it. Then that's why there would be MCs. However, I'm perfectly fine in going back to them and saying, due to just technical specs that we don't have time to figure out, the MCs will be recorded. and we can stitch it together.
I mean, no one will know. If there's no audience interaction, then no one will know. Like if they're not asking the audience questions or something like that, like
That's-
We'll know.
We would know, right? And that is something I didn't necessarily commit one way or the other to that. I just, because I didn't know. But so say that the MCs are not live. Joe, does that?
Oh, then we just edit it all together and upload it onto YouTube and say it premieres at this time.
Right, but will you be able, I guess the link just goes at,
The link will just go.
I know, but will you be able to generate the link?
Oh yeah, it'll be all pre-made and everything.
in terms of us that evening, like you sit back and watch. It's all on that.
Like that night, we wouldn't have to do anything.
We would only have to do it if the MCs are live.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it takes out. It takes out the I don't know, excitement of it being a live event. And it takes. I mean, like, and my concern there would be people thinking, "Oh, I can just go back and watch it anytime." Though my guess is we'd probably be taking that video down. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have the we would have it stitched, if you will, on the backside in.
Right. I mean, we would always have it so that, like, yeah, if we needed to share it with a parent or something, we could.
Right, but it wouldn't be publicized past that night. I mean, our concerts aren't anyway.
Right.
I mean, just having it be live. There's so much room for error. I mean, if one of the MC's internet connection goes out, and then there's that element. There's a lot less room for error if we do it ahead of time.
Okay, so then my other concern then with the MCs then is I have kind of a hard deadline for all the groups to have their things in for submission by next Friday, the 11th. They would need to have things previewed so that they can kind of like ham it up, you know what I mean? Like, I know Kasan will ham something up, and that's fine. Depending on who the other.
How much script are we giving them versus, giving them free reign? Because I want to set expectations for them correctly.
So one of the moms is writing program notes because I don't trust that anybody else will have time to do it. So and she's sending them to me ahead of time so I can like.
Are we having a 50-50 raffle? Is the BLS school store open? No, I'm kidding.
Right? Yeah, seriously. Like, yeah, that's, yeah.
Give them a chance to have a more polished, presentation too, which I know goes against everything about being live.
That also mean a more polished presentation, but that also means like more work ahead of time.
Or takes, yeah.
So whereas sometimes it's when you're just doing it live, it's nice to be able to say, hey, this is what happened, that we went live, and you're gonna give us some forgiveness here because it was live, right. Etc. But
yeah, sorry, I'm thinking through. I think the safer bet is to have them record.
Yeah,
I mean, that is definitely the safer bet.
And I'm okay with playing it safe for this round. And if, if this is the format that we have to do in this spring, maybe we try it live, but this like I would rather, what does Rachel say? I would rather under promise and over deliver. And I can just tell the parents that in order for us, and I'll just say, in order for us to generate the link ahead of time the correct way, we don't have a workaround for that yet.
Yeah, I mean, it might exist. I just don't know.
And you don't have time to figure that out because you have your own responsibilities coming up in the next 2 weeks. So that's fine. So then I guess Zoom we don't need Zoom at all then, right?
No.
And we cut out another app
Another point of failure.
right. It's another that I feel better about too if we cut that out. So how okay. So does it make sense then to stitch the whole video together as one long thing? Or I guess it does then, right? We'd have to have the whole thing put together.
Yeah, that you would have to have it all be one long thing.
Okay.
Which will be
Jeremiah, you want to?
Which will be real fun to export.
I know it took an hour to get. It took over an hour yesterday to get those 3 minutes.
So, yeah. Yeah. But I mean, usually it's not that bad. Yeah, it's usually, about minute for minute. So if it's an hour show, it usually takes about an hour or so to export. But that's been my experience anyway.
But also, is there just maybe a lot more data because of all the tracks that you're putting on there?
That very well could be. You have an insane number of tracks.
And that's only going to multiply. So that's
right.
What you saw was one of the smaller groups. And there's going to be another 50 people in that video.
Right. Though I'm also wondering, I mean, if you're using WeVideo to do it, and you're sending it to your Google Drive. I mean, WeVideo doesn't require you to have the tab open to be continuing to export, right?
No, it processes on their servers in the background.
So all you
can do an email when it's done.
Right. So all you need to do is just hit. I mean, like even if it takes 24 hours,
right?
You just hit that ahead of time. You go live your life for 24 hours, and
right. I just to put this in perspective. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 choirs, 4 in-school choirs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4. I'm sorry, there's 4 choirs. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There are 15 groups. Of the 15 groups, the raw material that I have are for 2, 3. So if they do their thing on their own, and I want to stitch the whole thing together, will WeVideo take like what I did with the MP4 that we just watched, and then say the show choir has a wave? Can I stitch all of those different kinds of files together to make one long one?
So can you take all of like the MP4s and combine them into make one long MP4?
MP4 or whatever the original file format is, because they could be. I don't know what everyone's going to be.
WeVideo will export as WeVideo will export 4, which is pretty standard.
No, I know, but like say show choir gives me a wave format. Can I just drop the wave in, and then when I export it within the big, like
Right.
it'll like WeVideo will accept a wave format, or it'll accept an MP3
Yeah.
format, or
It converts everything on the way in. So when you import it, it will convert it into whatever it needs to make the video run.
okay. That sounds
Right. Actually, yeah. So it probably won't be as bad if you are. I mean, if you do each group's songs individually, and uh, then just take each of those individual videos and throw them into WeVideo as like a separate project, right? Because I didn't like download this video and have it be absolutely gargantuan, right? Let me see. What's the stats on it? It's, you know, this video is only 54.6 megabytes. So clearly it's not like the end result video is not like this massive thing. It's just the processing on the one end that resulted in that taking that long. Whereas if you are stringing together a bunch of 54.6 megabyte videos, it's not going to take as nearly as long as we're probably afraid of.
I'm afraid. I am afraid of, this is my biggest fear, which has nothing to do with either one of you, is that I'm going to be editing all of those videos. Like for that group, there's like 40 something videos in there. I was the one who had to edit all of that. That's my fear. And that they're just going to hand a whole bunch of raw video files and say, here, go for it.
Oh, I 100% expect that's what's going to happen. Who else is going to do it?
To what extent could they? I mean, everyone has access to WeVideo. Can we tell them they need to do some of it themselves?
There are very varying levels of technological skill set.
Correct.
Like
and
that,
I have 2 students who are going to do stuff for, or 3 students who are going to do stuff for volunteer hours, and I have faith in them. But like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I said, okay, videos are up. Like I started, they're all lined up. Go ahead and add in stuff. And now, granted, it was over Thanksgiving break and they shouldn't have been doing anything. But I opened it on Friday. I opened it on Saturday. I opened it on Sunday, and I was clearly the last person who was in there. So,
also BLS students don't do anything until you give them a deadline.
That's true. I understand that too. And I have a meeting with them tomorrow anyway. So,
they don't do anything until you give them a deadline, and then they miss that deadline and do it a week later.
Even then, you're still sending them emails. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that this at least got us to the point where it makes the most sense to just cut out the live portion of it and compile it.
Yeah.